morning of having Erling from Denmark with us this morning. He's been in TV ministry for a long time and now works with Dr. Job. And Dr. Job is from India. Anybody ever hear of that place? No? Okay, well, he has a wonderful ministry there. And we're just inviting Dr. Job. Please, would you come this morning? And as you're coming, let me just mention.
It's my great privilege to be here this morning to see international faces and an English crowd in Norway. It's my great privilege to be with you this morning. And I did not explain who I am. I am in the ministry last 45 years, so you can imagine how old I am. I worked with the Reverend Richard Boombrand since 1970. Boombrand was bought by a Norwegian lady from Romania during the communist regime of Josefsson. So he landed here first, then he immigrated to America, then he started an organization called Voice of Martyrs. And I worked with him 33 years. And I have traveled almost 129 nations with him to preach the gospel. And I am a preacher, a born preacher. You know what is born preacher? I became a preacher when I was 3.5 years old. I was born in a very poor home in India. So my neighbors were all poor people. Husband and wife both will go to work, leaving their small children at their home. There was no nursery school or a play school for children. So I was 3.5 years old. I will visit the homes and collect them, 6 months old, 1 year old, 1.5 year old, as my audience, and bring them to my veranda of my home and put them one by one in line. Then I used to take a shaky stool, old stool, a table, small table, from my home and keep it as my stage. Then put a stick attaching or binding with one of the legs of the table. Then I asked my mother a tomato to put it as a microphone. So I used to speak. I don't remember what was my message, but my mother used to tell me I used to preach about Christ. Then one of the clever boys who was 2 years old came nearer the shaky stool and pulled one of the legs, and I fell down. I broke my left hand and I became tortured for Christ. When I was 16 years old, I left my home for Christian work. That time I had no theological education or secular education. So nobody invited me to preach in a Bible school or a church or anywhere. And I used to stand up on the street of India because you don't need anybody's permission. No pastor has to give you a certificate. If you don't get a chance to preach anywhere, stand up on the street. So there were 3 people to listen. During my half an hour preaching, 2 of them left. Only 1. But I did not give up. I continued. But it took years and years. Gathering crowd, small, then it increased. The largest crowd gathered in the city of Bombay. Have you heard about city of Bombay? I had 500,000 people sitting every day evening in 18 acres of land. And brother Nielsen used to come from Norway to assist me in praying for sick people. So it was a coordinated effort, but I was the one who prepared, one who collected people, one who preached everything. Nobody invited me there to Bombay. God did so many miracles in Bombay, but then the government, fanatic Hindu government came to power. They thought I am a dangerous man in India because, Prime Minister cannot gather people like this. Politician cannot gather. See, there in India, to gather people, one person to come for meeting, you have to pay like a $5 and a cup of tea, a 2-time dinner, like that. Then only they will come and say, this party is good. But they will go to other party also if they get money. But then the Prime Minister also sent a secret intelligence to my office to know how I gather people. So I told the secret agent to tell the Prime Minister become a Christian. So the fanatic wanted to kill me. They made several attempts on me, but they failed. The last attempt was they threw stones to my car. Car was almost gone, but I had several injuries, but there was a medical doctor sitting in the car that time who gave me the first aid because I had a bleeding head, several shots on my head, so I could not hold the bleeding because I used to take aspirin because I had a heart problem. So my blood is diluted, so it was going like a fountain. They all thought I will die in the car itself. They ran away. But the doctor who was sitting in my car gave me the first aid, took me to the hospital. The next day it was in the newspaper that I am alive. So they could not kill me. So then what they did, my second son who was studying in the medical college to become a doctor, he was a third-year student, and he was pulled down from the hostel and killed. So you can imagine, I lost my youngest son. Recently I lost my eldest son also. He was 34 years old. He was working as a missionary in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, all this Muslim world, sending Bibles in for underground churches, using computer technology because he was a computer engineer. He worked 12 years in the Muslim world, but he was killed this year on 17th January. So I lost both of them. I had only 2 boys and I lost. God has taken them. So I would like to say a few things in this regard. There is a book in the Bible in my name. I did not write it, but that was the first book written in the Bible. You know what is the book and the name of the book? Oh. So I would like to tell you, this man had 7 children and all of them were killed one day. I had only 2, he had several. So one day his wife asked him, can you not forget this God? In the book of Job, chapter 2, verse 10. What it is written. One of you can read? 10. He said to her, when his wife was telling in verse 9, his wife said to him, do you still hold to your integrity? Curse God and die. That was the statement made by Job's wife. Then his answer, he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God? Shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. This morning, I would like to tell you about the 3 dimensions of the gospel. 3 dimensions. One of the dimensions is the gospel of prosperity. Gospel of prosperity. Second dimension is the gospel of suffering. The third dimension is the gospel of grace. See, if you study the whole Old Testament, even the New Testament, if you go to the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 7, God promises him, go anywhere, follow me, obey the rules and regulations, I will prosper. So, in the Christian world, there is a gospel of prosperity. But that itself is not a full gospel, it is only half gospel. Most of the preachers have to preach prosperity gospel. Especially I come from India, a poor country, we preach prosperity gospel. If we say to the people about crucifixion and the suffering, they will say we have sufficient suffering, we don't want to accept Jesus and have another suffering. So we always say, God will heal you, God will prosper you, God will bless you. That is called gospel of prosperity. In America, there is a theology developed on that prosperity gospel. And some of them believe there is only one gospel, that is prosperity gospel. I am not criticizing them. In America it is possible. In Norway also it is possible. When you accept Christ, everything is good. But in India, if you accept Christ, you are out from the home. Whether you are a Hindu or a Muslim, you are out. You have no food. You are out from the job, and suffering begins when you accept Christ. But that is not true in European countries or in America. But it's true in Iran. I met a lady here. I had been in Iran several times in underground churches. For them, accepting Christ, declaring Christ is the day they declare their death. So where is the prosperity? Prosperity only in heaven, not only on the earth. But there is prosperity. I was born in a Christian home. You know, Christianity is planted in India in AD 52. Have you heard about it? No. AD 52, St. Thomas, one of the disciples of Jesus, landed in India. Because there were Jews in India, in southern India, taking spices and pepper, black pepper and all these spices to Israel. There was no America at that time. So, Jews were there, and Thomas came to preach the gospel, and Thomas established a church, and I belong to that church. My mother was a strong Christian. And I have a brother, younger brother. He is now in New York, Bronx, settled down. There he has married a nurse. His eldest daughter is a lawyer, and the second son is an engineer. Third son is studying in high school. But when this brother was small, he was a dumb boy. He never spoke. Somebody told my mother, send him to school, he will speak. But then my mother obeyed, but there was a big chaos. 2,000 children were studying in the school. I was also there. It was very difficult to manage him. All the other children will mock at him and fight with him. Then he will throw stones. Then when the school is over, they all will come and try to beat him. So I cannot see my brother lying down, and other children are like flies sitting over him. So I also take a stone and bang on him. Then they all come to me, and finally I stopped going to school. I'm afraid. So I told my mother, don't send my brother to school. If you send my brother to school, I will not go to school. So finally, she stopped him sending to school. But let me tell you, she is a strong believer. She told me, I will pray for him and he will speak. So I told him, he will never speak. My mother was an illiterate woman. So I told her, you are illiterate, that is why you are speaking like this. Because she gave us a very tough time early morning to get up 4 o'clock and pray to God. Because I asked her one day, why do you ask us to get up 4 o'clock in the morning? So she told me everybody is sleeping, so God is free. So that was her argument. Then when I studied a little bit of geography, I told, Mother, Jesus is in America now. Okay. But I want to tell you, I want to tell her faith. So she challenged me. She challenged that her son will speak one day. And she started praying, crying, praying. She started fasting. I told, you can fast, I am very happy because we are in poor home, I can continue. But this fellow will never speak. And she declared fasting 40 days. 40 days. In the beginning I was very happy because more food. But then I was sorry that she is going to die because even she was not drinking water. On 40th day, she told me not to go to school. Sit with my brother. And then she stretched her hand on my brother's head. There I want to tell you, the art of command for him. Art of command. She is a illiterate woman. Only God gave her this power. And she stretched her hand and said, Jesus, I am not asking my son to speak and go to school or university. I have only one desire. Before I die, my son should call me mother, Amma, in my language. I was broken. And the agony of a mother. Then I opened my eyes. And she was not a normal woman that time. You know, the face is changed. Glory of God is seen there. And she was like a heavenly angel. She stretched her hand on my brother's head and said, in the mighty name of Jesus, you will speak now. I was shocked. How can she comment like that? And my brother stood up and said, in my language, Amma, mother, Amma, like a stammering voice. And then he developed his vocabulary, went to school and university, got married. Now he is in New York. Nobody will say he was a dumb man. My mother was an illiterate woman, but she knew the art of command. You know, when you are an evangelist or a preacher or a Christian worker, let me tell you, especially if you come to Asia to preach to Filipinos or Indonesians and Singaporeans or Indians, you need this art of command. Art of command. And God will come down and use your hand to heal the person. I have led my brother Nielsen. If you are sick, I will ask him to just pray, not for healing only, to know the beauty of healing, to know that Christ uses your hand, and to know Christ can use you. Even you are illiterate or idiot. Once you surrender your life into His Master's hand, He will multiply your talents and use you and show you the result. Brother Nielsen used to come to my crusades. So every crusade we have a prayer for healing. We don't bring people on the stage who are healed like that. But I have seen, we stand together. We keep our hands shoulder to shoulder. My stage always is 100 feet length, 50 feet width. You can imagine 200 people can stand on the stage. And we all stand up together and pray for healing. And I have seen heaven coming down and healing people, masses. That is why I lost my son. You know, it is not I or you individual. See, the Bible also says 2 or 3 gather together. So you can you imagine 200 people standing on the stage, shoulder to shoulder. Not Job is praying, not Brother Nielsen is praying, but when God's children stand up together, proclaiming the gospel, you will see the power of God. So that is the beauty. So you see the inspiration comes from heaven to manifest God's glory through your life. See, people are not interested in theology. You can preach theology to students, Bible school students, not the illiterate people. I have written several books. One of the books is called Fifth Gospel. It made a big controversy in India. Fifth Gospel. Who are you to write Fifth Gospel? Some bishops and Christian leaders wrote to me. They did not read the book. You know, many people criticize without understanding. So, Fifth Gospel. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. 4 Gospels. Only 4 Gospels in the world. But these 4 Gospels are historical Gospels. History. But when you and I believe in these 4 Gospels, and we act and we live according to the Gospel, we become Fifth Gospel. So today, people are asking the Fifth Gospel, not the other 4 Gospels. So who is Fifth Gospel? Each one of you. When you go and preach the Gospel, you are the Fifth Gospel. That is called the contemporary Gospel. Today's Gospel. That we need today. Look at me. I belong to Jesus. Look at me. I declare the glory of God. Look at me. I stand on behalf of the kingdom of heaven. That is Fifth Gospel. You need courage. You need courage. You should have a confidence. You need confidence more than any other theology. It's not a statement. Once you have a confidence that you belong to Jesus and Jesus belongs to you, you have the power to command and you see the healing. You know the prayer of Elijah? Many leaders in the Bible prayed like this. God, let these people know that I belong to you and you belong to me. I am the servant of living God. That is Fifth Gospel. So prosperity gospel itself is not full gospel. It is only half gospel. So without prosperity gospel, you cannot approach people, masses. You need it. And there is prosperity. As God told Joseph, go! I will prosper wherever you go. And you will see the same in New Testament. But don't make theology in a small box. Or God in a small box. We have a bigger God. So, when you are full, powerful in Jesus Christ, you have a contact with Jesus Christ. For example, a child is chocolate. You tell him God loves you, he does not know how God loves him. You say, God loves you, I give you a chocolate. Even I say, God has given me this chocolate to give you, you will be amazed. A child needs children's food. A man who is new in Jesus Christ needs chocolate. See, you always ask, hey, come on, give me that a chocolate. Mom, can you give me ice cream? Or can you buy a yogurt for me? But when you become big, you don't ask your mom, give me a chocolate. You never ask. In India, when children are big, parents are poor, old, so children have to support parents. That is not in the culture of Europe or America. But in Asia, we are more interdependent, not independent. Parents support children, so children are beggars to the parents. Then afterwards, children become big, so parents become beggars. So that is called interdependent. You know, in some places you will see independent people. In America, Europe, you will see all are independent because rich nation, everything is available. You don't need to obey. That is why more divorces and all these things taking place in all these countries. But in India, I don't fully agree that you should be independent. I also don't agree you should be dependent. But you should be interdependent. There you see the love and affection in the family, in God's love. You have to depend. Interdependent with God also. So remember 3 words. Dependent, independent, interdependent. So Christian philosophy should be interdependent. Whether you are a pastor, whether you are a believer, whether you are a church member, whether you are a Bible school, I am all right, I have everything, I don't need you. Never think, I need you, you need me. That is called interdependent. That is the real gospel. So, when you are matured, an Indian, when he is matured, he never asks parents a chocolate. He will ask, Mom, oh, you have a cough. Can I buy some cough syrup for you? Can I take you to the hospital? So, there you see an interdependence character. There not only, there you don't see asking, but you are ready to give something. There you will see my second point, the gospel of suffering. If you read the Gospel of John chapter 21 verse 18, Jesus told Peter, when you were young, you walked as you liked. But when you become old, somebody will tie you and take you to a place where you don't like. There you come to an age of suffering. See, if I take my life, I have seen the prosperity for many years. No failure. Everything is prosper. But let me tell you, now I am in the ministry last 44 years. I lost one son, then another son. You see, God has taken Peter to the place where he did not like. The history says, tradition says, when Roman soldiers wanted to crucify Peter, Peter told, don't crucify me as you have crucified my master. Crucified me upside down. So gladly he accepted. If we are there, we will be shivering and all these things. But when you are matured, you are ready to face suffering gladly for Christ. And he told the Roman soldiers, crucify me upside down. So there you see, a suffering is not a suffering for a believer. So there you see the gospel of suffering. If you read the letter to Philippians chapter 3 verse 10, it is written, God has called you not only to know the power of resurrection, but also to have the fellowship of suffering. You are joined with Jesus Christ. See, Christianity is centered in crucifixion. Not in prosperity, but suffering. Suffering is the center. Only crucified man can preach crucified Christ. Only those who have surrendered can preach crucified Christ. Only crucified man can preach crucified Christ. That is my whole evaluation of my life. It is difficult as a young man and woman. It is difficult for you to digest my preaching. Because you need prosperity now, not suffering. You need a good marriage, good house, good car, everything. Let God give you. I am not against. But I am not threatening you by preaching. I am not threatening you. There is another side of the gospel. Second dimension of the gospel is not prosperity, suffering. I gave you a reference. Philippians chapter 3 verse 10. You are called not only to know the power of resurrection, but also to have the fellowship of suffering. Dear friends, you should not worry about it, about suffering. You should not think about suffering. I am not threatening you, but I am going to tell you the inside of the life in suffering, during suffering. I told you my mother was a strong believer. She used to brainwash me that I should become a pastor. You know, I am not a pastor even today. She will always tell, my son, I want you to be a pastor. At least once in a week. We were staying near a Roman Catholic church with attached to the cemetery. So all the funeral procession in our village will take place in front of my home. In my village, if somebody dies, I used to cry. That person may not be my relative. I used to cry. How weak I was. If a funeral procession takes place, if I am at my home, not only crying, but fall down. No, what I am saying, the whole story. One day, my mother argued, "Hey, you should become a pastor, why are you refusing?" I told my mother, now listen, if I am a pastor, I will be appointed as a pastor of a congregation. Somebody will die in my congregation. Then I have to take the funeral service. I have to conduct the funeral service. During the funeral service, before the relatives of the dead person cry and fall down, the pastor will be flat. So my mother agreed. Okay. So I agree. You know, somebody should continue the funeral service. So dear friends, let me tell you, when my two sons were killed, both of their funerals, I preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. I told my co-brothers in the office, arrange a big platform in the center of cemetery. They thought I am going to deep depression. I told them I need a microphone. In cemetery, there is no electricity. I have bring backup battery or generator. I want to preach the gospel. It is most difficult thing to preach the gospel when somebody dear to you die. And when my second son Michael was killed in 1999, there was a big chaos all over New Delhi. So there were more police force than the crowd. So there was a man standing near to me, because all Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, Pentecostal, all the leaders were on the platform in the cemetery. You know, when somebody dies, there is no fight in denomination. They all are together. The gospel of grace of God No other place it is written like that. Only one place. As a theological student, you should know that. The gospel of grace of God, only in one place. In the Bible, Paul has written, you may say 14 letters or 13 letters. You know, some people don't agree about Hebrew is written by St. Paul. I am not here to fight with you. If you agree or disagree, both are equal to me. Out of these 13 letters or 14 letters, if you read together, there are 3 dramatic expressions by Paul about grace. The first expression is seen in the letter to Philippians chapter 3 verse 12. He holds me. He holds me. That is a phrase and a dramatic expression about the grace. He holds me. The second expression is seen in the second letter to Corinthians chapter 4 verse 6. Light shines in the darkness. Light shines in the darkness. And third expression is seen 1 Timothy 1st chapter verse 14. Abundant and overflowing grace. These are the 3 dramatic expressions mentioned in the epistles by St. Paul. And what are these? Very important. We are not worried about suffering. There is a beautiful garden in Calcutta, eastern side of India. Several types of roses. And there foreigners, Americans, Romanians, Norwegians, all are coming to see the flowers. Every corridor of the ground it is written not to pluck away any flower. And one Indian, as usual, went and plucked away the best flower. So the American said, "Hey, Indian brother, did you not see what it is written? Don't pluck away any flower." He said, "Sir, sorry, I am the owner of this garden. I am owner of this garden." Jesus is owner of our life. Jesus is owner of this earth. He can pluck away any flower. He took away 2 of my boys in young age. Maybe God needs some young people to work in heaven, not all old people who cannot see, who cannot hear, who cannot walk. So he has taken beautiful 2 flowers from my home. So we are not worried what is happening. We have a Jesus who is our Father, who is our Savior, who is our Redeemer, who is our all in all. That is the beauty of being in Jesus Christ. Light shines in the midst of darkness. See, after my second son's death in 1999, in 2000, I started an orphanage. Orphanage for only girls of Christian martyrs and persecuted Christians in South India. Somebody asked, why do you start an orphanage only for girls, not for boys? Girls are not wanted in India. That is the character of Asians. They always want a boy. When a boy is born, there is a dance. And if a girl is born, 5 million abortions took place last year only in the government hospitals. Only in the government hospitals. My wife is a medical doctor. We have our own hospital in New Delhi. We don't abort, we adopt. 25,000 married women, young women were burned alive last year because they did not bring money from their parents to the husband's house. Can you imagine? What will be the situation of a girl child born in a Christian home, father, mother, both were killed. Boys can go and work anywhere, but girls can be raped, thrown into drainage, killed and thrown into drainage. I started a small orphanage with 31 children from India, Bhutan, Nepal, Afghanistan, Burma, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Ceylon. All Asian places, different places, like your college. Now 306 girls are there, with all different stories. You can go to my web, www.drjobsmission.com. www.drjobsmission.com. You can see all these girls, their history, everything. Let me tell you, there is one girl whom I took from Northeast India. Her father, mother, both were killed one night, and she was sitting in between two dead bodies. The Christians in Manipur brought her to my orphanage. One day, when I came to Norway, Brother Nielsen's daughter's mother-in-law, Elena, old lady, told me, "Can I come to your orphanage?" I said, "Come, come." And she came, and she asked me, "What is my assignment?" I told her, "You look after this Louise, who lost her father and mother, and she doesn't smile, very serious. Let her smile. That is your assignment. Let her smile." So when she came from Bergen in Norway, she brought many books of the life history of Jesus Christ. One day she was teaching Louise. Louise is I have given the name Louise because that is the name of grandmother of, you don't know, Timothy. Okay. You should, I asked some questions to know whether I should give you 100 marks or 2 marks. Okay. So, Louise doesn't smile. Louise doesn't smile. But let me tell you, one day Louise told this Elena, my brother Nielsen's daughter's mother-in-law, "Mom, I know this guy," looking into the photograph of Jesus. He has never, she did not know that is Jesus. "I know this guy. This guy came to my home when my father and mother both were killed and stretched his hand on my shoulder and told me, 'Don't worry, I'll give you a good place.' So I am in good place now. Because we give good food, good dress, good education, good meal, good yogurt every day. They can study from kindergarten to PhD. Free. Kindergarten to PhD. We have 2 colleges. One is educational college. They can go as a teacher, B.Ed, M.Ed, PhD. Another, you can be a scientist or engineer, doctor, and if you want to for a post-graduation degree, come to our place. I'll give you free scholarship. But only girls. So it is a development project for girls. And when I went there, a person gave me a small portion of land. And then I bought another 60 acres of land. So it's a big campus now. But there was no water. One man gave me free land of 2 acres, and there was no water, no electricity. The water under the earth is salt water. You cannot drink, you cannot even take shower. Then we were buying water for these children. One day I came to know the water board chairman is a Christian. So I went to see him. And I explained this. And he asked me, "What area is your orphanage situated?" So I explained it. And then he told me, "I'll give you water within 5 hours." How can he give 5 hours? He told me, "You arrange some synthetic tanks reach within 2-3 hours, we will be there. He came with his battalion of engineers, and I was amazed what miracle is going to do. Changing water to wine. 50 years ago, when there was no water in the state, the government of Tamil Nadu took the water from Kerala state and the pipeline was laid under our land, under this orphanage. And he told one of his engineers, open it and give the water. Sir, we cannot give water from the main pipe. It's not allowed. Hey, don't make big hole, small hole. It's orphanage. The city of Coimbatore does not have water all through 24 hours, only morning and evening. But our orphanage have 24 hours. Now I'll tell you another experience. In this city I had a free crusade with the brother Nielsen and so many others. So many people come, thousands of them come. But I always pray together. So that day I preached about Dr. David Livingstone, a white man who went to a black dark continent. That was my message. I always preach about biographies and autobiographies. You know why? People will follow somebody. Fifth gospel. Again. Use some biographies or autobiographies in your sermon. Even it is not fit, try to fit it. Because that gives hope. Biographies and autobiographies. Whether it is from the Bible or from outside. So dear friends, in the end, I had a prayer for all people. There was a man who had no children after 14 years of marriage. And that man stood up among the crowd, I did not know. And he raised his hand and prayed, Jesus, if you give me a boy, I will name him David Livingstone. He will be prepared to be a missionary. See, after the crusade and gospel campaign, when I go to New Delhi, I get only the bad letters, critical letters, criticism. Only God's people write to heaven. So all the good letters will be delivered only in heaven, not on this earth. So always I get bad letters. Let me tell you, when I went in 2000 to this place, one man wanted to see me. So he came to see me with a small boy. I asked, what is your name? David Livingstone. You know what is the miracle? The boy was born next year. After 14 years of marriage. So I asked him, now, what are you doing here? I am the top engineer of electricity board. I told him, we don't have electricity here. And he gave electricity like 3 layers. What a wonderful experience in Jesus Christ. So there is prosperity, there is suffering. In the midst of suffering and prosperity, you need abundant grace of God, overflowing grace of God. So remember, abundant and overflowing grace. So there are 3 dimensions. One is gospel of, second, and third, wonderful. You are a good student, 100 marks. Now I'll close. If I go preaching like that, you will sit all 24 hours. So the newspaper in Bombay wrote next day after my crusade, there is a man from Delhi mesmerizing all the 500,000 people on the flat. Means, magician. So they think that nobody can do if you are not a magician. But I said, the power of God. But newspaper writers are almost atheists because they always reason. By reasoning, you cannot find out anything. You know, it is like onion. You take the leaves, outer leaves, nothing is inside. So they always make like that. You know, in India, we always say, poor people, when they get a glass of milk, they drink. Straight from cow. They drink, they become fat. But there are very intellectual persons in India, they ask, is it boiled? Is it good milk? From where you got it? And finally you will not drink, so you will be like this. So like that, if you don't believe without reasoning, if you don't believe, you don't get the blessing. There is no place for reasoning in Christianity. There is no place in reasoning in Christianity. Because remember, your brain, you cannot criticize yourself. Our whole brain will work like that, a type of reasoning. But let me tell you, reasoning has no place in Christian faith. I will close this sermon today with one more story to explain how God holds us. How God holds us. When my children were small, we used to go to South India during June, July. In North India, the temperature goes to 47, 49 degrees. In South India, that time 14 and 15 degrees. So we go there. It's a raining time. So I visit many homes because many people have helped me when I was a street preacher. So I want to go to their homes with my wife and children. My wife is a medical doctor, 2 beautiful children, handsome boys. So I want to show them, God has blessed me to show to them. And these, Michael, who was 4 years old, and John, 8 years old, they have wear very good dress. New Delhi, the roads are like your house floors now. But in my village, there is no concrete road, tar road, only muddy road, and dirty road, slippery road. So I told Michael, let me hold your hand, otherwise you may fall down. It's not New Delhi. Michael said, I am a big boy. You are always thinking I am a small boy. Then what happened? He slipped. And the whole bottom was dirty. I cannot, we are walking, there is no car there. So we cannot go home where we are staying and change that dress. I told you, now how can I take you to a house? Do they allow you to sit on their sofa set with this dirty bottom? And then he said, that I will hold your hand. Again slipped. I was so angry. I did not beat him. No, beating is not allowed in America or Europe. Okay, I did not beat him. In India, we have to beat. So, then, after the second fall, he told me, Dad, you hold my hand. Dad, you hold my hand. So I was home. Again he slipped. But now, can you imagine? You are holding his hand and you are walking and he is falling down. What you will feel? You have a sensation in your hand that somebody, the boy is going to fall down. Then what will you do? Yes. He slipped. He can fall down, but he will never be flat because his father holds his hands. He holds me. He holds me. When you are slippery in sinful world, when you are suffering in a suffering world, when you are fighting with the devil, sometimes you may feel that God, I am going to fall down. That time don't try to hold the hands of Jesus Christ. Let Jesus Christ hold your hands. That is the beauty of Christian. So there is suffering, there is prosperity, There is a grace. So now let me tell you, can you repeat the 3 points? The gospel of gospel of
Suffering.
gospel of
Grace.
wonderful. You are a good student. A great. A plus. You want A plus? Okay. Okay. Now, I would like to give you few minutes, if there is, to ask questions. So who has the first question? Who has the second question? Who has the third question? Nobody. Okay. Any question? No. God bless you.